Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with Symco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I will start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. It's my pleasure today, and actually, I've been really looking forward to this interview for a long time. It's a lady called Elise Kephart. When I first come across her, she was known as the YouTube Diva. I was at the National Automotive Dealers Association, and there was a guy called Jim Ziegler, and I thought Sean's mentioned her as well. Sean Bradley was talking about this lady called the YouTube Diva, and she was working at the time, I believe, in a Honda dealership in California. And they were talking about what she's doing, how she was personally branding herself. And I thought, wow, I love the idea of what she's doing with video. And let me tell you, Elise Kephart now runs her own sales training organization in the United States. And I got to tell you, she knows her stuff. There's the old cliche, those you can do, those you can't train. But let me tell you, following Elise on social media, I know she is someone that will take the call in the sales department. She'll go out in second face, and she actually knows what she's talking about. So listen, Elise, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is really exciting.
Cool. So Elise, can I ask you then, why cars? I understand you're a barista early on in your career. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a funny story. I rewinding the tape pretty early on, I actually did grow up around the car business. So my dad sold cars and did F&I and was a manager like pretty much my whole childhood. But it's not something like you graduate high school, you're all, hey, I want to get in the car business. I just, I was living down in San Diego at the time, and I was actually dating somebody who had started selling cars for the first time. And I remember I was on my Starbucks break, and it's like, this is when the flip phones kind of went like this. And he sends me a text and asked me to call him. This is when people like spoke on the phone. So I call him on my Starbucks break, and he tells me that he made like $1,800 his first commission selling a used Nissan Titan truck. And I like had to get like a double take, because that was like my whole month's worth of income, just about, like working at Starbucks with tips and like a second job kind of waiting tables and hosting and stuff like that. So the next day I kind of was like, well, if he can do it, like this is just inner competition me. I was like,
yeah,
if he could do it, then I could do it. So I actually took the bus. I don't know who does this for a car sales job. I took the bus because my car wasn't really in working condition at that point in my life, and got turned down at like 3 Nissan stores. And then I walked into a Ford dealership, Ford and Hyundai store, Heller Ford. They're a Group 1 store now, but it was in Escondido. And they hired me on the spot. And that was like that was the first time that I just got into the car business. And then I think when you sell your first car, it's kind of over at that point, because it's this high almost that never goes away.
Drug. Oh, isn't that so true?
When even with like what we do now, I don't sell cars, but I still sell.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have your own business, you have to know how to sell. And it's just a high.
Yeah.
When I think it's not like, oh, I closed somebody. It's I don't know. Maybe it makes you like feel like you're helping somebody. You're solving a problem.
It isn't so true about the jumping in the car, in your case, the bus, going and knocking on a few doors. So many times I get people say, how do I get in the car business? I said, put a suit on, okay, get dressed up good, go and knock on some doors. I promise you, by the end of the day, you'll have a job. And I just don't know if the young generation does that sometimes anymore. But it's so many times I know of people. I did that when I first come to the UK from Australia. Now, I'd sold cars in Australia from 17 years old. I was a backpacker. We were just trying to travel around Europe. We ran out of money. Me and my mate said, right, let's go and sell cars. And like yours, it was like knocking the door. We didn't have a car. I need a job. And you know what? where else? What other industry could you earn the money you can selling cars and get a job in day one like that?
So much of sales, I believe, is you have to use your own voice, right? Or if it's face with the customers in the showroom, then so much of that is face-to-face selling.
Yeah.
Anything that you're doing like this or like this is just behind a screen, right? And there's an extrovert part that you have to, that's part of the skill set, I believe, that a lot of times the younger like they're almost like afraid of the phone, or it's like it's not in to them it's like a telephone. Why would I want to talk to the customer on the phone if I could just do it over text? But they don't understand the psychology of that's part of sales,
Going back to part of sales, Starbucks.
Yeah.
Starbucks, was that a good grounding for you? Because again, you're not direct sales, but you're speaking to lots of customers, angry customers. You got to calm down. And anything really, was it a great grounding for you?
Well, you're also dealing with customers. Like I always had the opening shift, so you're dealing with people that have not had their caffeine intake at but yet they're up at 4:30 in the morning, with like at 5 in the morning, right? When you open to like on routine. And I remember at that age, always wondering, like, gosh, like what are, like these people are always like, here every morning, and they have things very specific their way, like their drink, right? Now at like a place where I'm at in my life, it's like it's almost like I'm on the other side of that, where like I need to, like I'm there at routine. But I take it in perspective of like it's a great company where it teaches you hard work, and a lot about just, I mean, one of the reasons I think Starbucks is so successful is because they have a recipe, whether it's their culture, their employee culture, right? Or their drinks, whatever they put in their drinks, right? To get people to coming back. But one of the things that you learn is, like, obviously, and depending on where you live, there could be a Starbucks within a mile of each other, right?
Yep.
So to a person that's like waking up at the crack of dawn to do whatever they're going to do for their day, and they've got to have their coffee, like they have two or three choices sometimes, like on what Starbucks they're going to go to. And it's all within the same driving distance, and the prices are the same, right? And the drink recipe is the same. But like, what is gonna trigger that person to go to one of 3 Starbucks choices within the same driving distance?
Yeah.
Right. And it's the experience, it's the people. It's like that's the core part of it.
Yeah.
When everything else is similar, right? And so I've kind of always taken that with selling cars, or what I do now is I want to be the company, or the one that people choose to go to.
Listen, that's good advice. Over here, there's lots of talk about the agency model that's coming in. I know it's just starting to have that conversation in the States, and let's see what happens there. We've got people that have already started it, and it's definitely coming. And a lot of people are, I think it's fair to say, investors are like nervous, but it's like the Starbucks approach. People still buy people. At the end of the day, they're still going to need us to sell the actual process. It's the experience that you talk about there. I'm honestly very confused, because I've tried to make Starbucks coffee at my house. I've tried the Keurig version, I've tried the coffee pot version, I've tried the beans and the French press version, right? All the same beat, but no, it is just not it's just not the same. It's not the same.
It must be the experience of the people, unless there's something. And I've tried. Yes,
the magic sauce. The magic sauce.
Right.
So this definitely separates the motor traders. Do you remember the first car you sold?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Down to like the color, the couple. It's almost like a movie reel in your head when you replay it. It was a 2007 Hyundai Accent, and this was in 2008. So like the body style, I think, had just changed over to a little bit more rounder of a version. So, but it was a used car. It was a little 4-door Accent in that baby blue. I don't know what the official color was, but it was a college student and her parents. And my first commission was almost, I have the stub, it was like $797, like almost $800. And I remember my manager, like, it was like in that back car business office, and he was like pushing this deal over to finance, and he's like, well, this is going to be a lot more than your Starbucks tips. And like $800 for me. That was like the high. That was the first, like, what? Like,
What?
because
Yeah.
because I'm used to that being like, okay, I'm gonna get a check from Starbucks in 2 weeks after working all these shifts for like,
Yeah.
$912. Like, so
But
it was
that
kind of
buzz,
crazy.
isn't
Yeah.
that buzz of selling still, stays with us with the rest of our life, doesn't it? That buzz, there's nothing like that. You still get it. Hey, so listen, when you were selling cars, what was one of your greatest days in selling? Now, I've seen your videos. I've seen where so many testimonials. I've got to ask about Justin Timberlake as well. Okay,
Oh yeah,
in a second
right,
there. But
right.
tell me about what's one of your greatest days selling cars? And
I always had a really big like just competitive part of me again when I sold cars on who can I get to drive the longest and like the longest distance, or fly on a plane the longest distance to buy a car for me. Like that
wow, that was your buzz. Yeah,
well,
okay.
yeah, because it's like, most people be like, oh, this person lives all the way like in Timbuktu, but like my mindset, I remember at that time was like, well, like if they live all the way in Timbuktu, how many Honda dealers do they have to pass?
Wow, yeah,
That
yeah.
I'm gonna beat, right? That I'm gonna that
I
like
get it.
I'm gonna win over, just, and that customer's gonna sit through traffic for me, right? They're gonna do all the stuff to do
Yeah.
business with me. And so the longest, and it kind of it's crazy how it worked out. It was a couple that lived in Maryland, and they were buying like a house in San Luis Obispo that was getting built, and it had to, like, all of it had to sort of be planned around just the right car, and the right timing too, for it to make sense for them not to go to like a bigger, fly into LA, for example, and get something there and then just drive it up. Because where I live, it's kind of like in between Los Angeles, California, and San Francisco, California. Those are like the bigger towns, and then San Diego's like, much more south. So I'm kind of in the middle of all of it. And rumor has it, I remember at that point, that like, oh, you can get a better deal if you drive up to the Bay, or if you go down to Los Angeles, right? So but that was a really feel good deal. And then even just like the customers, there can be so many negative stereotypes, and I'm in these car groups, these car groups these days in Facebook, where you it's the car business, so you're just gonna sort of scroll and accept like some of the craziness in it. But a lot of I think stereotype is aimed sometimes at Asians, or sometimes at like at like with people with like a native name, like that they're gonna be these really tough customers, right? And it's joked upon, and it's kind of, it's like, I'm not trying to put a label on, but it's a unfortunate joke, I guess, within the car lingo talk. And so though, like, customers again that but that in California, like, you have customers, that live in the Bay Area or Los Angeles, of that nationality. And so, like, that was just another, I always just like to go against the odds and be like, okay, what's like the toughest situation, and how can I like how can I beat the odds, and how can I still
I love that competitor. I've not heard it that way. The furthest away to get someone to come and buy from me.
Yeah.
I love that. When I started, I was in a Holden dealership, which is a General Motors product in Townsville, North Queensland. So not Brisbane, not a capital. It's right up in the pointy bit. And up there, Tony Island, my first boss, was saying teachers are the worst people. They never make a decision on the day. They'll just go and think about it, and they'll come in with spreadsheets and all that. And I remember that competitiveness, like, I'm going to fucking get this teacher. I'm going to get this teacher. Forget the profit in it, Elise. I just had to win to get the deal from the teacher. Now, I made stuff all profit out of it, but I had to get the teacher on the day because someone said, you can't do that. They won't buy on the day. And I love that competitiveness.
I mean, I carry it over into what I do now with taking, with just, when I go to when conferences started to come back around. So I did this at NADA this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick a blind dealer from the audience, and then I'll put my own, feet to the fire. And I say, all right, I have 15 minutes. In 5 minutes, I'm going to get a customer blindly from your CRM to pick up the phone for me. And I'll have 10-minute conversation time. And you're going to hear me close an appointment for you that's going to show up. And that's kind of that's a ballsy move a little bit, right? Like to do, because it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we just talk about this stuff. We don't actually like, no person would do that, like knowing.
Love it.
Unless you knew really what you were talking about and you have it like, and I think that's
I love that.
That competition it still carries over because not nobody does that. So
I love that.
Those that can't do teach.
That's the truth. That is the truth. And I just love that when you're in a dealership where you actually make calls with people live. And at least you've been there. You get the salespeople around there waiting for you to fail. And I got to tell you, there's a trainer. We're a small company. There's 6 of us. Okay.
Yeah.
And I had a trainer that was a great guy. He knew his stuff, but would never make the call live in front of the team because he said, if I fail, my credibility's gone. I said, trust me, it doesn't. If you cannot make an appointment with every customer every single time there, sometimes you will fail. But then you turn and say, I got that wrong. What should I have done? Okay. And then guess what? You learn from it. They learn from it. Your respect from the people you're making the call will go through the roof. And I got to tell you, it does work. When people see you pick up the phone there and actually go through, let's make appointments from the CRM. Let's make it from the database, from the service department. And again, you know what you do. You look at the ones that.
I mean, I have it down in my head, and I broke it down before the phone call. I have 12 scenarios. I broke it down before I did this. Like, I said, there's 12 reasons that I'm crossing my fingers on that don't happen when a customer picks up their phone. And I kind of went through just a quick summary of them. And sure enough, the first cut, the one chance it's like Eminem, like live, right? The one lady that picked up was one of those 12 scenarios, but it's kind of like an asterisk to it because it's the objection of I'm at work right now. Can you call me back? Right?
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that I'm, oh crap, they said that I'm done on this phone call. It means that I have one chance to move past this objection properly. I can't like, dance with the same objection, meaning I can't, if a customer says no, if I move past it and they still object to it in the same way, like I'm at work, then it's better for me at that point to hang up. So for sure enough, she said, oh yeah, that's right, but I'm at work right now. Can you call me back? And it was like, oh my gosh. It was crazy because at the end of the call, I still got the appointment, but it was all down to like literally that much of just a math game almost for me, the way I break it down.
I love that. But if you make enough calls, I know that if you make enough calls, what the maths are, what the numbers are, you're going to get people who was going to say one of those 12 things, the objection. And if you know the objection that's going to come up, you know how to deal with it before it comes up, you got that game plan, right?
And I almost, one of the things that I've really dove into over the last probably since the year 2020 up is the psychology of a text message, to the point where in the same way that we have reasons for what we say or the psychology of what we do face-to-face selling or phone selling, breaking down the psychology of a text message to where if you can get a text message to where at the end of the text message the customer is saying, hey, it's cool to call me, then those 12 scenarios pretty much like all out the window, right? Because they're not going to tell you take me off your list. If a text message they just said like, hey, yeah, cool, it's cool, Simon, to call me, right? So so it's almost like it's almost like this extra little category of when you get engagement over text or email.
Mhm.
Are you training on the right process? Do you know how to make
Can
a
I just,
customer- yeah,
I just want to get your views here. For me, text is better than email now. Emails are ignorable. Emails go into spam and junk, and a text, it's just there. I mean, you and I, before this, we text one another a few times, done,
Yeah.
because you read it straight away, done, give me 4 minutes,
Yeah.
not a problem, I'm here, get on when you can. If that was an email, is that going to be as instantaneous there?
I no, absolutely. You know, it's so interesting for me to break down, I feel like, the consumer to dealer relationship and the B2B, or like vendor to dealer relationship, or my, you know, in the reactions, I guess, of like, for example, I don't, on my website, dealers will gladly give me like their real phone number. Not a 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and just an email, right?
Yeah.
And we see that all the time in the consumer to dealer world. You know, I don't know if there's a company that is like a text only. It's like it's True Car. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but
No, I'm not with TrueCar. No. Okay.
so they have a service where they tell the customer, hey, you know, you only will be texting with the dealership, like they can't call you. And so when the dealer signs up for that program, you don't have the customer's real phone number, right? Like if you try and call it, it says, nope, this is True Car, and you can only text this number.
Okay.
And it's kind of crazy the way that I unfolded that, but I look at it like, all right, in that case, I actually take my chances and I go to the email and I use the right process in the email to get the real phone number, to text them, to take the text to a live phone call. A masked phone number where I'm just having a pen pal conversation, and I can never at the end of it say, like, you know, hey, I know your day's busy, but just to make sure the rest is correct, you know, lined up correct, are you free for me to call you for a quick 2 minutes from the store? I can't say that if I don't have the customer's real number, right? So I believe texting is like that one step, like you said, that's farther along almost in this process. Like, but there is a bucket, I find, of where you don't have the real phone number and you only have email. And so you almost have to, it's like, you got to progress that to getting the phone number to text, and then text to a phone call.
It's
phone calls your close.
It's earning the right each time to go to the next stage, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, if this is like Tinder, right? Like you don't, girls, females, I mean, I'm not on the app, but I figured out very quickly how it works. Like, females are not just going to give you their number right away, right? Like if you go into their DM, so that's kind of like an internet lead, right? It's just how it works. And they have to like you enough to actually like evade this their real phone number to you, and like their actual, like, you know, on those apps you could be anybody, I think, that you want now these days. Like, so it's almost like this similarity in getting the trust wall to break down for the customer. That's why they don't give you the phone number in the first place. Like,
they don't trust it. That's true.
But it's very interesting to break down, because it's like they put that much effort, Simon, into like changing their name and putting like a weird email, like, you know, just stuff that's like, if that energy that people use for like these very creative things, just like use it for the greater good. Sometimes that's so much, it's almost like a compliment, right? They distrust you that much, they went to that much effort to not, because their guard is so up against you right off the grid. So like, who wouldn't love car sales, right? Like, pretty much right off the bat, you're like, some people are going to have a negative stereotype of you right off the bat.
Listen,
you know, what I'm saying in the video is, you know, hi, Simon, right? It's personalized. Elise over here at ABC Motors. Hey, I saw you were doing some pricing research on this 2022 Chevy Silverado.
That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.